It is without doubt that the DJI O3 system has the best live view and onboard recording that you can get in digital FPV today. That though comes at a cost, and that is size, weight and power usage. The O3 system is about the same size as a Caddx Vista, and the camera is quite large, being 20mm wide and really not a traditional form factor. Many of the other digital FPV systems like HD0 and Avatar HD all have dedicated small cameras and boards designed to be used in whoops. However, that hasn't stopped drone manufacturers trying to cram O3 into smaller and smaller platforms. Today, we're going to take a look at one of them, and specifically the Pavo Pico from BetaFPV, which is a small whoop that crams in a full-size DJI O3 air unit. Now, in this video, I'm going to walk you through its features and capabilities. We're going to get it set up, and then I'm going to share with you my thoughts at the end, having spent some time with it. Now, I'm going to say up front, I am loving this size and style of aircraft with digital FPV, and whilst DJI certainly isn't the only system that you can have in this, I am also really interested to see how this develops over time, with more manufacturers integrating O3 into smaller platforms, and even seeing things like the Cinewhoop kit that allows you to make an air unit light, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Anyway, let's get on with it, and let's take a closer look at the Pavo Pico first of all. Okay, so the Pavo Pico. Now, at the time of me making this video, I believe this is the smallest whoop that you can get which will accept an O3 air unit. Now, when we open the box, you'll find inside various accessories, and we'll go through these a little bit more as we move through the video. This quad is a sort of bind and fly, but it is a kit in the sense of it doesn't come with the air unit pre-fitted. Now, you can install O3 in this, but you can also install HD0 or Avatar HD if you wanted to as well. There is a modification plate available for those versions. Now, if we lift it out, we can see the quad itself comes pre-assembled. It comes with 45mm props. We then have our XT30 connector, and as this one is designed for the O3 air unit, it comes pre-fitted with an O3 air unit connector pre-wired, ready to go. So all we would need to do is mount the air unit to the frame. It comes with their all-in-one flight controller in the middle. This is an all-new controller from them. It is based on the ICM Force 2688. It has Express LRS built in, but it is not SPI. It is a serial Express LRS receiver. It has the B51 Blue Jay ESC built in, 16 meg of black box storage, and the flight controller itself weighs 4.2 grams. And you can see that it comes pre-installed and pre-wired, ready to go. Motor-wise, it comes pre-fitted with the 1102's 14,000 kV with 45mm tri-blade props, and it supports recommended battery size of 2S 450 mAh, and they've included one with the kit that I've been sent here. Now, what's really nice about this kit is that it does come in at 100 grams with the O3 air unit fitted, making it one of the smallest, lightest DJI-based whoops. Now, alongside the pre-built whoop frame, they also include the accessories we need to get it up and running. So you get these two plastic frame parts for the O3 air unit. These are designed to hold the O3 air unit in the middle, and then they include some isolators down here to actually hold it off the frame to offer some vibration isolation. They also give you some other little bits with this as well, and if we just open it up and get them out, we can see it has two antennas, although you can use this with the original O3 antenna as well if you wanted to, and they do include some brackets for that in the kit as well. But if you wanted to go the ultra lightweight option, you can install the whoop antennas. They do give you this TPU mount camera protector for the O3 as well, trying to just offer a little bit of extra protection with the camera up front, so just trying to avoid you damaging it in a crash. We've then also got a UV filter, again designed to protect that O3 camera, some spare props, as well as an external cable and a USB connector for allowing us to attach to the flight controller for doing our configuration. There's no USB connector on this flight controller as standard. You're going to need to use this external board to do any changes to Betaflight that you may wish to do. Now, building this up for O3 is fairly straightforward. What we're going to need to do first of all is remove our existing antenna. I'm not going to go with the original DJI one on this, so I've already removed the plate and we're just going to take them off, and then I'll install the 2 antennas that they've included with the kit. These are obviously going to offer a lot less range performance than you're going to get on the official antennas. However, there is a compromise to be had here with these things, and at the end of the day, when you're trying to save as much weight as possible, there is going to be a compromise. And there we go, we've got the 2 antennas mounted on the back. Now, the way this is mounted is fairly straightforward. What you have here is this little frame area, and you can see we've got the 2 little holes for the antennas at the back. So what we're going to do is pop the antennas through there first of all, and then sort of bend the plastic carefully out, pop the air unit inside, and then pop it back. And that way you can see then our camera cable comes out underneath there, and the air unit is sort of suspended with this plastic there. We've then got the antennas there, and it's then ready to be mounted to the frame, and you just got these little plastic bits at the bottom there holding it in place. Now, they do include these isolators and screws for screwing through the frame into the plastic, and again, the idea of these isolators is to offer some additional vibration isolation for the air unit, and then you have the same then for the camera. So again, you can see there's 2, 4, 6 in total, and then we've got all the screws with the camera screws. Let me just bring that in so you can see it. The camera screws there included for it too. Now, with regards to the camera, I did think some of these isolators were for that, but actually that isn't the case. So what we do is we mount the camera to the frame on this, and then the whole frame is isolated to the main frame of the quad. So what we're going to need to do is just coil up the excess on the camera that we're not going to need. It's not the easiest task to do tidily, but you can simply do it like that. Then you can simply get the camera where it needs to be. You can see the hole there. Get our screw, prop it through, and then just screw it up either side. So again, we can mount it low or high and make sure that we then get it nicely in place. There we go, so the camera's mounted. Looking at the images, they actually have the camera staggered below the main frame on this, so that when we mount it on the front there, you can see it drops down into that area there. Okay, so the next task now is to get this mounted to the frame. Now we've got the 4 holes here, and then we've got the holes there to go through, and what we need to do is put the screw through, put the isolator between this and the frame, and then get it mounted. Okay, so the build is complete. You can see we've got the O3 air unit in the middle. We've got our camera up front. Now, I've mounted the camera in the upper position, or the lower screw point, just to bring it up a bit at the bottom. They do show it in the lower position, but I'm not sure how that's going to behave. So I've decided to put it sort of horizontal and level with the O3 air unit itself as much as I can. We've got our camera cable then, cable tied up behind. I've just put a coil in there and a cable tie to hold it. Obviously, the O3 air unit is here, and that's separated from that main frame with those isolators down there. They are what are going to make sure that you don't get vibrations through, and you just want to make sure on this side that your screws are all on top of them. Now, the last thing for me to do on the drone itself is to plug in our cable. As I've said, this one does come pre-wired for O3, so I'm going to simply get it in place, give it a push, making sure that it is in, and then that should just work out of the box. They also include with the kit this little TPU cover for the camera. You can fit this if you want alongside that UV filter. I probably won't use the UV filter myself, but I will put the TPU cover on just to offer a little bit of extra protection to the camera just in case I have a crash, or when I do have a crash, I should say. Now, one thing I failed to mention earlier was with regards to the built-in Express LRS receiver. It is on board, but as I've said, it isn't SPI, but the antenna for this isn't really your traditional antenna. You can see that there's this little wire here coming up over the middle towards the front, and that's actually the Express LRS receiver antenna. Now, it is just sitting there, so you're going to need to be a little bit careful with it. I'm probably just going to put a little bit of hot glue on that just to make sure that it doesn't move around too much, but it is just worth noting that it is located there. Other than that, it's a really nice little build, so it's time to get it out in the field. Now, the flights I'm about to show you were my initial test flights. Now, you will see I am getting a little bit of jello here and there. The frame is set up properly. There was actually some initial flights I did before this where I was getting really bad jello, and that was as a result of one of the isolators having slipped. However, this is now with it fully correct, and whilst you can see there's a bit there, I am not running ND filters at this point. What I'll now do is just let this play. We'll leave it without the gyro flow stabilization first, and then I'll put a little bit on with some stabilization, and I'll come back and share with you some thoughts. In my initial tests, you can see that we are getting a little bit of jello making it through. I was not running an ND filter that day though. There is though, I think, some improvements that could be made around the camera area. I'm going to try and soft mount it, put some rubber O-rings in there. Everything else on this is mounted correctly. I've checked everything. And overall, whilst there is a bit of vibrations coming through, I think this is a great little quad. I really like it. Now, I've been doing a bit more playing, and as you can see, what I've done is soft mounted the camera there with some little silicone pieces. But basically what we have is a silicone insert either side of the frame with a little screw and a washer. You'll also note in my testing, I managed to break the duct in actually quite a strange way. We've also damaged up a prop as well, so I'm going to need to get them replaced and do some more testing. Now, to replace the duct on this, it looks like you've basically got to completely tear it down. You've got to take the top off. You've then got two screws here, which you can get to from the sides, but these two here at the front and back you can't. So unfortunately, you're going to have to pop the air unit off the top. Now, what you're seeing here is my first test with those rubber isolators on the camera. Now, the idea of this was just to get a feel for how it is. This isn't stabilized, so there's no gyroflow or the DJI Rocksteady. And as you can see, it is better, but it certainly isn't perfect. There still is a little bit of jello making it through into the footage, especially when I start pushing it forward. Now, it is a very bright day here in these tests. An ND filter may have helped, but what I'm seeing here isn't directly ND related, and again is simply as a result of some of the vibrations moving through from the frame. Now, I did a lot of testing this day, and whilst I'm not going to show all the footage here, I did try loosening up the isolators a little bit, tightening them, and again checking all of the things like the PWM frequency and a bit of tuning testing as well, and nothing I really did improved it. Overall, it pretty much just behaved the same. Now here is some of the footage, this time in acro mode, and this time I've put it through gyroflow. Now this again is just to give you an idea of the kind of output that you can get from this quad with the stabilization. Now, unfortunately, in the last test flight, I had a little bit of an issue. Well, it's official. I get to say it. The front fell off.
Yeah, that's not very typical. I'd like to make that point.
More work to be done on my mods, it seems. Now, the isolators were gone in the crash, and unfortunately, as I'm away, I didn't have any spares, so I remounted the camera hard as it came from the factory, and I'll just show you a little bit of footage of what it's like now it's back to stock. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts on the Pavo Pico from BetaFPV. Now, to start on the positives, I think this is a great little aircraft. In fact, it's one of the most fun quads that I've played with for quite some time. I love having O3 in this form factor and platform. It flies well, you can fly it around the house, you can fly it out and about, and whilst it's not designed to be a bando basher or being thrown around like a freestyle quad, it certainly is a drone that you can have fun with, you can fly it in amongst the trees, and overall, I think it does a real great job of bringing O3 into a smaller platform. Whilst there's a lot to like though, it isn't perfect and there are a few issues. As you've seen, I'm getting jello on my footage and I cannot stop that. I've checked everything, the tuning, the PWM frequency, I've soft mounted the camera, and whilst that does help, it certainly still isn't perfect. If you wanted to be able to use that O3 footage on this absolutely perfectly, you may struggle. Soft mounting the camera really does help, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you are still getting some jello through. Also, I think the black duct that I got with the original one is fragile because mine broke quite easily in a minor off. Now, I don't expect the duct on this to be as hard as what you get on the likes of the Avata. However, the way it broke was a bit strange. If you look back in the video, I showed it took the whole corner off. That wasn't me. That's how it actually came off in the crash. And it looks like it's quite fragile. Now, I don't want the duct to be the toughest thing in the world, but what you want is it to absorb absorb the energy of a crash. That might mean deforming, but not breaking. For me, the annoying thing in this is if I didn't have spare ducks, because I was lucky they sent me a few, I would then be unable to fly and I'd have to wait for a new one to come. And if it is that fragile, I think they should be putting a few spares in the box. If you're buying this quad, I would strongly advise getting yourself some spares. That way, you know you're not going to have any problems. Although I will say I have cracked this one. This clear duck doesn't quite seem as fragile as the black one. Overall, I absolutely love this little thing, but it isn't without its issues. Now, if you're interested in getting one, it is available as the Bind and Fly from BetaFPV here, or you can get it as a frame kit as well. There'll be a link to both of these in the description. Obviously, you're going to have to get yourself an O3 air unit for this as well, but I do think what BetaFPV have done here is made a real nice, fun little aircraft, and if you're interested in getting one, the link is below. I want to say a thank you to BetaFPV for sending this one over. I am going to be doing more with this quad in the future. We're actually going to be doing the O3 air unit light kit from Cinewhoop, and we're going to try and take the weight down on it even further and see if we can do some more work on that camera jello. And if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Furthermore, if you'd like to support the channel to allow us to keep making content like this in the future, please do consider checking out the link to my Patreon. It's only through the support of my patrons am I able to keep making content on this channel, and if you'd like to support us to allow us to keep making content in the future, please do consider checking it out. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my patrons for all of the support they have given. Anyway, that's it from me on this one. Stay safe. I'll speak to you soon.